It was a pilgrimage to set the history books straight. At dawn in central London, almost 100 serving soldiers, veterans, faith leaders, musicians and community champions board a bus for a one-day mission to Ypres in Belgium to unveil a plaque to write history.
Good morning, Letty.
I'd like you to pull out your passport and wave them in the air, please. Because
I looked at it 5 minutes ago.
I just keep getting these waves of excitement. We're making history today.
Following the outbreak of World War I, the British initially refused to allow black West Indians to join up. But as the conflict worsened, King George V instructed the War Office to recruit volunteers. 15,600 were enlisted, arranged into 11 battalions, and the British West Indies Regiment was born. 1,500 of them never returned home. But in the memorial church in Ypres, on the land where so many of them lost their lives, there was no mention of them.
In perpetuity, from this point on, the British West Indies Regiment will be there. That's just so cool.
Amongst those making the pilgrimage today, the British Army's highest-ranking black officer, Brigadier Carl Harris, and the first black colonel, retired Colonel Andy Allen.
One of the reasons I want to be part of this is my heritage. I spent 30 years in the British Army, and do you know what? I never realised the heritage that is there at Ypres. We're talking about soldiers who came from the Caribbean to fight for the King, who actually didn't know even about Great Britain, but they were part of the British Empire and wanted to do their bit. Can you imagine what that was like back then? In the 1916, 1917, to come to a strange country to fight.
Whilst there are beautiful stained glass windows and memorial cushions and all manner of plaques and memorabilia, quite rightly commemorating others that have served, there was nothing for the British West Indies Regiment. Well, that will change from today, and so what a privilege to be here witnessing the unveiling of that plaque.
For me personally, I think it's a sense of identifying with people that look like me, that served like I did.
It's just an amazing feeling. It really is. It really is. What we're doing is we're going to be there on behalf of these veterans' family members who couldn't be here. It's such a privilege and an honor to be able to do that.
Waking up this morning, one thing was on my mind was the process of, we're coming here to honor these guys. What was on their mind when they basically woke up that day to come over to this land in order to try and do what they think was right, and the right thing for them, and the right thing for their country, and the right thing for what they believe in.
Why we're here now today serving in the Army is a bit of history to it. So again, people just think that in a couple of years there's guys from the Caribbean just join the Army, but it's way back.
The theme today in the church was retelling the story, and retelling the story based around what has been told before. And a lot of the guys that are here, that are lying in the ground here, their story hasn't been told. They've been forgotten in that sense, but we know that they're here. And we would just want to come and to honor them. And this story needs to be told.
May it serve as a perpetual reminder of the courage and sacrifice of those from the West Indies who, for the sake of freedom, served in the First World War, and especially those who died in that conflict.
So we bow our heads in silent applause, British West Indies Regiment. We can't forget their sacrifice.
Who knows, maybe reggae and calypso was like something that came about in the trenches when they were like in such odious conditions, and they had to find a way to pull through, they had to find a way to be resilient in spite of them coming from a very warm country, coming to a cold environment where they're not accustomed to. So in order to get by, they probably had to rely on the songs that they knew and maybe made some of their own, you know, to get them through those moments when they felt like, oh my God, I can't do this, you know.
British West Indies Regiment.
service was fabulous. We made memories today, but we also made history. It's time to rewrite, reframe the narrative. And the narrative is, we were there.
I didn't realise how important the West Indies Regiment was in the First World War and how much they'd done. As a young schoolboy, I remember reading about who was part of the Commonwealth and who served during the First World War. And for those who served in the West Indies, it wasn't even a paragraph. It was less than a paragraph. So it was really fitting to see their stories and to see their gallantry and bravery and the amazing accomplishments they did in such a small period of time during the First World War.
The number of black soldiers and particularly black officers remains low in the British Army, although diversity has improved since Colonel Andy Allen was serving.
I joined the Army in 1984 and marched up the steps of Sandhurst, and I must admit that I felt alone. I was, in my intake at Sandhurst, the only British black officer. And then throughout my whole career, there's still a minority. I was forever feeling alone. Each time I got promoted, I became more aware that there were not senior ethnic minority officers. Even today, I don't know why there are not enough ethnic minorities joining the Army. This is a huge cultural change, a shift. We have to connect the dots. We have to understand what's really needed to make more people from all nations join and actually progress in the British Army. And we now have a black brigadier, Carl Harris, you know, the first ever black brigadier. And he's now breaking the glass. There is a great saying of, if you can't see it, you can't believe it. And by seeing people like myself or Carl, we have a generation of junior officers that can actually reach out and think, do you know what? I can be a colonel, I can be a brigadier, and hopefully one day, when Carl gets promoted to general, I can be a general.
You may notice that I have broad shoulders, and that's purely because I'm standing on the shoulders of our forefathers, those people in the West Indian Regiment that started all this, to recognise all their contributions. So now, as I'm standing on their shoulders, others can stand on my shoulders, referencing all the contributions that people that look like me that can contribute to the King's armed forces going forward.
My Lord,
For the British Army to succeed, we do need to draw on the very best talent that is out there. But not only do we need to draw on the very best talent and present opportunities to that talent, we need to work really, really closely with different corners of society. We need to work with senior political leadership. I think collectively working together to make sure that we draw on the talents of all of our peoples, to make sure that we've got a British Army that is representative of British society in 2024 and beyond.
Thanks for watching. For more from BFBS Forces News, like and subscribe to our channel.